BBC Newsline.
Belfast City Council is taking legal advice over an event involving the Bradford MP George Galloway, which is due to take place at the council-owned Ulster Hall. The DUP have called for next week's event to be cancelled because of anti-Israeli remarks made recently by Mr Galloway. BBC Newsline's Mark Simpson reports.
He's known for being outspoken and controversial, but the DUP say George Galloway went too far in a recent speech about the Middle East.
We have declared Bradford an Israel-free zone. We don't want any Israeli goods. We don't want any Israeli services. We don't want any Israeli academics coming to the university or the college. We don't even want any Israeli tourists.
Next week he's due to speak in Belfast at the Ulster Hall. The DUP say Mr Galloway's views are so extreme he could damage community relations here. But on BBC Radio this morning, the MP hit back.
To be lectured on good relations by the DUP is a bit like being told to sit up straight by the hunchback of Notre Dame.
Well, he might be keen to try and deflect the attention onto other issues or just come out with meaningless abuse. But this is a real issue about extreme views that he's expressed and our assertion that we do not want those views being expressed in the Belfast City Council facility in our city.
Differences over the Middle East have caused tension in Belfast. The latest example came in the north of the city at the house where a former Israeli president was born. This blue plaque used to be on the wall, but after a number of recent attacks, it's had to be removed. Chaim Herzog was the Israeli president for 10 years, but his roots were in North Belfast. He used to live on Clifton Park Avenue. In more recent years, the Sinn Féin councillor J.J. McGee lived in the house. He's no supporter of Israel, but thinks the blue plaque should have been allowed to stay.
Disappointed to see it's been removed. No matter what your politics is, you know, it's history. It's a part of history. The guy was born here. I can understand people who are angry and are protesting about the Palestinian issue and they're frustrated, but there's better ways to protest.
On the George Galloway event, Sinn Féin say it should be allowed to go ahead. Unionists want Belfast City Council to cancel it. The council say they're taking legal advice. The event is billed not as a political rally, but more of a laid-back discussion. It's entitled Saturday Night with George Galloway, and it's supposed to take place on Saturday week. Mark Simpson, BBC Newsline at the Ulster Hall.
Well, just before we came on air, I spoke to George Galloway. I asked him if his comments were as extreme as those he's accusing.
Well, I'm not as extreme as the DUP, who are the backers of Pastor McConnell, who you'll recall just a few weeks ago was spreading hatred against Muslims in the north of Ireland and bringing scandal upon your province across the world. So the idea that I can be accused of being extreme by the followers of Pastor McConnell is frankly ridiculous.
But you have demonised and rejected an entire country.
Well, I'm entirely against the crimes of the State of Israel. 95% of Israelis throughout the current campaign in the last 5 weeks have consistently supported the attack on Gaza, and I don't want anything to do with that 95%. The 4% who opposed it, on the other hand, would be welcome as heroes in my constituency.
But you will know, Mr Galloway, that people on both sides of the argument in Northern Ireland very often go into the same polarised state about the Middle East. So are you not inciting problems here in our delicate peace process?
I'm really not sure what your delicate peace process has to do with Gaza and Palestine.
Well, you will know that Unionists and Republicans very often tend to go into the same sides, in opposing sides in the Middle East conflict.
The last time I looked, Belfast was a part of the United Kingdom. I'm a 6 times elected, 27-year member of the British Parliament behind me. I'm entitled to go anywhere I like in this United Kingdom, and I will. And I have a signed and sealed contract with the Ulster Hall. Money has changed hands. A great deal of expenditure has been made, and a great deal of tickets, hundreds and hundreds of them, have been sold. So I'll be there at the Ulster Hall on the 23rd of August, and I expect to have a full house, which will vindicate at least this, that there are 1,000 people at least in the north of Ireland who want to hear my point of view.
So is this about publicity and money?
It's not about publicity. Trust me, I'm not short of publicity. It is a book launch, though. I am marketing my book. I know that the BBC doesn't have to worry about money because the public are forced to pay your wages and pay for your operation. The rest of us have to work where we can.
Israelis and Palestinians living in Northern Ireland say they already feel vulnerable. Are you not worried that this event will in some way increase the tension in the two communities here?
Really, you're flogging a dead horse here. I'm not sure how many Israelis are living in Northern Ireland, but if they are Israeli supporters of the kind of murder and massacre that we've all watched this last 5 weeks, frankly, I wouldn't want anything to do with them. I hope they don't come to the show.
George Galloway speaking to me before we came on air. Now, criminal charges should be brought against owners of care homes who repeatedly fail to meet